Morning. So today we are working on the quadratic equation, and your homework was IXL BB11. The formula for the quadratic equation is a crazy formula. If you remember, when we were given the formula, I would always label C, and I would say, okay, now we're not using it, but we're going to use it later. Now is that time. So this is the formula for the quadratic equation. I'm sorry. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yeah, it's a long formula. So what this does is your yesterday's homework, you had to find, you were given you graphed, and you found where it was crossing the x-axis. So you had to do all of that graphing just to tell me where it's crossing the x to find your two places. What this formula does for you is that you just plug it into the formula and it tells you, so you don't have to do all that graphing. So I am on IXL right now just to get my equation to use as an example. So it is 3h squared plus 6h plus 3. So I use the A is 3 because this is the A. The B is 6. And my C is 3. And so now to plug that into the formula. So x is equal to negative b. So that would be negative 6 plus or minus, I'll explain that when we get to it, the square root of b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 times a times c. All of that divided by 2 times a. So next line, negative 6 plus minus, following the order of operations, I square the 6 to get 36, minus 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times 3 is 36. All over, sorry, I'm trying to hold my phone keeps wanting to tilt. Let's see, excuse me for a second. It keeps wanting to spin, fun. Okay, so all over 2 times a, which is 6. So now we have negative 6 plus or minus, well, the square root of 36 minus 36 is 0. So that means on this one, nothing is going to happen to that square root. And then we have 6 on the denominator. So since this is 0, where you don't need it, so we just are left with negative 6 over 6, which is just equal to negative 1. So this one, we don't have a plus or minus situation because it was a plus or minus 0. So that's just going to be our answer. So I'm kind of actually interested on how this is going to work because it has 2 places for me to type in a number. So negative 1, I don't know. And negative 1, type in the same thing. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see that I was a little confused too on what they were going to want. I only had one answer, which was negative 1. So I just typed that in twice since it had 2, they wanted 2 answers from me. So this one, it's 6v squared minus 5v minus 9. So I'm hoping my tripod will cooperate more. Gosh darn it. How do I make it stay without swiveling? Sorry if you're getting All right, A is 6, B is -5, C is -9. So that was A, that's B, that's C. And the formula, I highly suggest you write that formula every single time because one, obviously it's such a long formula. And secondly, it helps you memorize it. The more I write it, the more it helps me memorize. So I have negative, and then my B is -5. So I already have a negative in front, and then I'm plugging in a -5. Plus or minus -5 squared minus 4 times A, which is 6, times C, which is -9, all over 2 times A, so 2 times 6. So literally, this is really just about plugging stuff into a formula and then following the order of operations. So a negative and a negative, that makes that a +5, plus or minus. -5 squared is +25. And now this, every single time, this is where kids are going to get it wrong. There's signs right here that this is a -4 times 6, which is -24. And then a -24 times a -9 would make that a plus. And let's see, I don't have a calculator, so I'm going to work it out. 216. All over 2 times 6, which is 12. So I'm double checking my work before I go to the next screen. So again, this is a -4 times +6. So that gave me -24. And then I multiplied it by a -9, and the two negatives made it a positive. So that's why I wrote plus 216. So then I have plus or minus, 5 plus or minus, 216 plus 25 is 241. All right, I'm definitely going to need a calculator. Hannah, do you have your calculator I can borrow? So while I'm waiting on my calculator, this one, I know that 241 is not a perfect square. It's not going to come out pretty. So it tells you to round. If you look at the directions on the IXL, it says to round your answers to the nearest hundredth. So for my calculator, depending on what you have for your calculator, if you type in the square root before or after, I think I do it before. So second, and it tells me that's what I get. So I'm going to round that to the hundredths place. So that would be 15.52. So I have 5 plus or minus 15.52 divided by 12. So now this is where this is new. This means you're going to do it twice. You're going to do 5 plus 15.2. And when I do this, I keep it all in my calculator all at one time. So what you can see me do, hopefully, is I'm typing 5 plus 15.52 equals. Keep that in your calculator. Don't clear it. Then you divide it by the 12. And I get 1.71. Then I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to do minus. 5 minus 15.52. So 5 minus 15.52 equals, keep that in your calculator, and then press divided by the denominator, which is 12. And I get negative 0.87666 repeating, but it says to round to the hundredths place, so that's going to be negative 0.88. So 1.71. Cody's playing with his toy. And there we go. That was that. So now I am, just because I want to see how difficult these problems get, I'm going to work out every single one. So feel free to fast forward if you need to, you know, so you don't have to watch me do every single one and be bored out of your mind if you don't need it. So I did the wrong variable. is going to drive me crazy with this knot, with this continuously spinning around. Sorry, you guys. I feel like I'm warm right now. This won't tighten. Whatever, I guess I'll have to hold it. A is 6, B is 9, C is 3. My handwriting's messy because I have to hold it with one hand and I can't hold my paper with the other. Gosh. You're probably like, Miss Peterson, give it up. I can't. It's driving me crazy.